Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast 198. Thanks so much for dialing me up and turning up the volume. I am grateful. I hope you had a great week just like we did. I hope you are safe and sound like we are. You're doing those simple tasks to continue to be so and moving that ball forward. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate all the email this past week, and there was a lot. Help with this week's podcast theme, in fact. So I appreciate hearing from you. Click on that link right there. Let me know what you need to find out, learn, questions, and queries. I'm here to help you. That's why we do this. Also want to thank my good friends at Bedford Camera, bedfords.com. They're there for the same reason, to help, answer questions, take care of your queries, and of course, what all camera stores are meant to do, sell you camera gear. But Bedford's, hey, you enter that special code MOOSC on the website or mention it on the phone, you're going to save yourself a pile of money, free shipping, and for orders of $100. And of course, for most states, no sales tax. So that's bedfords.com, folks. Look them up. They're there to help you, just like I am. Well, let's get right to this week's topic. Looking back on time. As photographers, we're in the memory-making business. We take a lot of photographs. A lot of those we share, those are memories. We're looking back on time. That's what a memory is, right? Of course, a photograph, you go click, and that memory is frozen, for better or worse, for accurate or inaccurate, or for blackmail or for, other things. Click is a memory. Is it carved in stone? Well, like many of you right now, I'm sure you've been asking the same question Chet did when he sent in his question. He goes, I've been looking at, I'm paraphrasing, a bunch of my old HDRs. He said, do you remember when HDR used to be a thing? And he says, hey, I don't like that look anymore. Is there anything I can do about it? Well, that's talking about looking back at time, right? You're going to sit there and rework that time. There's a great example. Now, for those who don't remember why HDR first came out and when I actually invented the idea back when in 2001, we used to double process our RAW file and then take those two images, processing one for highlights, one for shadows, take them into Photoshop and then merge the two. God, what a painful process back in the day. Then we got some automation years later and HDR was born. And you took 5 photographs and you put it into a program and bam, 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 AI would sit there and bring out the highlights and bring out the shadows for you. Also had a lot of sliders, and some people went to the dark side, what I affectionately called Elvis on Velvet. I think that's where Chet was coming from. A lot of punchy, garish colors didn't really, especially a few years later, bring back that special memory that is photography. So, Chet's question, what can you do about it? There's actually quite a few things. They're all premised on the fact that you have the original files, not the save TIFF or the save PSD, but the original files. Now, when it comes to HDR, it's really simple to open up and personally, if you went from under right on to over in your 5 image bracket, I take number 2, the one that's slightly under. And you could take that one photograph into Adobe Camera Raw or Lightroom, and you could sit there and in a heartbeat, and I mean in a heartbeat, as long as your computer could deal with all the updates and now it's slowing us down, that's a grievous for another podcast. Anyway, in a heartbeat, you can, quote unquote, reprocess that file. But in reality, what are you doing? You're processing the file for the first time. You're just doing the one image to bring back that memory without all that HDR. Now, of course, I say it's really quick and simple. And for some, that could be a challenge. Remember, I do have resources on the YouTube channel to help you with Adobe Camera. There's a bunch of new stuff coming out in the near future that will help you as well. But the bottom line is, if you're a good steward with your images and you have that original raw file, you can go back in time and rework it to bring out the information you want in today's style, for lack of better terms. You know how clothing is, was it hot in the 70s? It's hot again now. Photography does the same thing as long as you have those basics, that raw file. Now, there's a couple things to think about in this process. Let's look at the good side first. You're probably, no, not probably, you are a better photographer now than when you took that photograph. You are a better person in the digital darkroom. So you will bring out more information in that photograph than you did originally with whatever method, HDR or just a single process, whatever you use as a plug-in filter, be it Nik or something else. You are better at that. So that file, you'll probably have less time into it, probably less layers, probably a smaller physical size file when you're done, and it'll probably print a whole lot cleaner. Now, on the flip side, the one big negative is you're going to be looking back on that photograph through very rosy glasses. More likely, if you're like me and like most photographers, when you first processed that, you had a lot of stuff in your mind. Some of that was positive, some was negative. Some was, here's the great stuff, and here's some of the stuff that needs to be fixed, which, going back and reworking time, it's really kind of interesting how those things we thought were really bad in the past, really weren't so bad. And those things that are really good were really better than we thought. And we reprocessed that file, we reworked that memory. You'd be surprised how that image almost takes on a whole new life as if it's a brand new photograph, because it kind of is. Now, one other negative, and this is truly up to you to decide this, is the fact that your memory of that exact moment, your emotions, your color memory, things we've talked about before on the podcast, they're fuzzy, they're foggy. And that photograph you're looking at, you might be, if we were to look at Chet's example, you're looking at an HDR, and that's nowhere close probably to reality. Can you even remember reality? Now, if you had a gray card in that scene and you go click on it, you could probably get the white balance darn close. But after that, you might not remember exactly why you stopped to take that picture. What grabbed your attention? What emotion was evoked? That in itself could be a negative. On the flip side, who cares, right? I mean, it's time reworked. It's your memory. If you want to polish it up, and who doesn't take memories, whatever way you get them, and doesn't polish them up, make them look or remember as better than they were, right? Raise your hand, because we all do that. And is that really so bad? And in these days and times, probably is a really good thing to take any of those things, especially if they had any kind of negative, and make them a positive. But here's the key to the whole process, at least as far as I'm concerned for my own stuff. You have to know when to stop. You got to say when. You can't just keep moving on, trying to take what you're reworking to make it look like what it was that you looked at and you said, I need to rework it. You need to know that boundary of where you say, okay, stop, that's enough, we're done, I'm out of here, this is it. And that's probably the real challenge. And that is all the time with photography, but especially when you go back through your files. And I've received a lot of emails from folks the last couple of months, as you might imagine, of folks that are stuck inside, like we all are, and they're savior is going back in their files and in many cases reworking them. But you got to sit there and do it kind of gently. You've got to bring back that memory just to the right point where it still intrigues you, not where it's like you instantly dove to the end of the book and you know the story and you put the book on the shelf and you're done. Got to stop before that point. And that's really kind of the challenge. Now, one little piece of housekeeping in this process I would encourage you to do is not delete or write over or do a save as and take the new finished image and replace the old one. Why? For so many reasons. First, easiest thing to do is just change the file name for the original one, the first one you finished, and change it and put a -O for the old or for the original. And then save the new one with the original file name with no connotation what it's at. Why would you want to do that? Well, first, when you sit there and look at your images in your browser, you're going to see what you could say is the before or the first finished image next to the one you just finished. And right then and there, that's where this whole exercise of reworking time makes the big difference, because then you can see for yourself without asking anyone or getting any comment from any of the web sphere, you can see how far you have moved your own photography. And that's so important. So important that you can see what you've done, how you've done it, how far you've come. Next, file space, hard drive space. The still that aren't cheap. Why delete the old one? Keep that lesson. Lastly, what I like to do is I have a file that's called Reworked. It's a folder. And I put images in there that during the month I might have reworked. And I did this long before we were all locked in our homes and were social distancing. I've gone back and reworked a lot of photographs, mainly because I've learned a technique or two that for the biggest thing is to deal with a white balance or a color cast that I could not easily remove before. Now I can remove that color cast. And I keep a folder for the month of those images I've reworked. I go back and look at them because there's always some sort of trend in there, be it from a new software, be it from a new thought process, be it from a new technique I have learned. I mean, that's one of the great things about Kelby One. There's even though the class might be something that's a topic you've seen many, many times, it just takes one nugget from that hour class and poof, you're off to the races. You've learned something new. You're golden. All that's part of this process. Take notes. Keep your own lessons so you can remember what you've learned. So the next time you go out shooting, even though you've not been shooting, you have learned from what you've reworked, and that moves the ball forward. That means you've grabbed the brass ring and you are a better photographer. And that's truly our goal every time we go out. Have a ton of fun. Fun is everything. Number one. And after that, if we can learn something and then apply what we learned in the past, the fun will grow, the rewards will grow, we'll be a better photographer, and we have more to share of our memories for the rest of the world. And we need that now more than ever. So reworking time has so many benefits. I hope you guys have another fantastic week. As always, you have questions, click the link there on the website. You need gear, check out bedfords.com, talk to my good friends there. And remember to get out shooting and make every click your story.